Welcome to the Valley of Outlaws podcast, a podcast for those looking to take the road less trodden, and a podcast for those seeking more.
We could just talk about your dad's back.
Well, we can start there if you want to, because it's quite a long story. Is it one of your passions to fix his ailing back?
Yeah, and also I've just wondered whether he's still forgiven me yet for my version of tragedy. I bring that up every now and again.
And what does he say?
He goes, "What's
I really did not appreciate you teaching my son these.
Just remember, one of the things I always remember about those days from years and years ago was every now and again, like we'd all be like, if we were on one of those holidays, we'd sit back the paper, and then suddenly out of nowhere, William. But it's interesting because it was never Emily.
I know.
Never.
No.
Emily could be actually killing someone, murdering someone in the corner,
And he's applauding her.
and you just move an apple and you go, William, don't touch that apple.
I'm so glad.
Emily, are you okay over there murdering that housekeeper? Yes, carry on.
Do you need another knife? There's a sharp one in the kitchen.
Maybe that way.
I'm glad someone else knows the traumas I've had to go through. Oh, right. Warren, you are Outlaw number 22.
I am.
Series 4.
Wow.
So thank you. You are starting this series off with quite an interesting character here. I'm looking forward to this. My godfather.
Yes.
We've known each other a while.
We have.
And it's, as you've just been recalling, little holidays and moments of comedy with my father.
The back man.
The back man. Is that what he's called now?
I'm calling him the back man from now on.
So anyway, I like to start every podcast with the same question. So in your own words, who are you? What do you do? And why do you do what you do?
Okay. My name's Warren Bennett, and I am a composer, and I do that because I love it, really, and I don't think I could do anything else.
Really?
Don't think so.
Why is that?
I don't think I'm very good at anything else. I mean, the only other jobs I've had were basically things like, delivering things or working in a basement area with a clothing company or something. It was never anything that amazing. So.
Was music something then that you really connected with from a young age? Obviously, because your dad was in a well-known band and it was probably in your life the whole time.
I think so. Even before I knew who he was. Sounds a bit weird. Even before I knew who he was, in a way, I kind of liked music.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably because it was always around.
Yes.
But I didn't realise why it was always around until I was a bit older.
And how did you and him interact when you were younger with music?
He was very good. He never, ever pressured me into being a musician.
Yeah.
And he never said, you must listen to this. What you're listening to is awful. Like I might do.
Yeah.
What's that rubbish? So that was quite good. Although if I asked, he would always help.
Was he willing to let you explore then? And
yeah.
Okay. That's really interesting. And how what does music then mean to you now then from having that freedom?
Well, I have things that I don't like, but I would never say, I'm contradicting myself already. I would actually never say to anybody, that's rubbish. Why are you listening to that? I can appreciate everything that I don't like, if you know what I mean. So if someone's really into sort of thrash metal or something, or heavy like rap stuff, I'll listen to it and think production-wise, that's amazing. But I'd never play it myself. But I'm not going to tell anybody, because I don't like it particularly, that it's rubbish.
Yeah. Does that mean you now like Dizzy Rascal? Because I do remember you calling me out for Dizzy Rascal.
Yeah, I've grown up since those days. Yeah, there was a time. Yeah, I don't think. It's interesting when people just say and dismiss stuff without really listening to it.
Well, you've got to have the appreciation for the art, really, don't you, as well? Yeah. Which is kind of the big part of it. And I guess
definitely. Watching
your dad and being around it, like it is more of an art rather than something as a career. It's personal, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I remember, in fact, I remember watching Kanye West at Glastonbury and thinking, I don't really and I thought he was amazing.
Mm. Mm.
So you got to give everything a chance, I think.
Mm-hmm. And
Some people don't like jazz. They don't, but you don't
they
like
don't, I love jazz,
but
they don't understand.
I love it.
Yeah. See, I've got a friend of mine who's a jazz drummer, plays at Ronnie Scott's quite a lot, and I've been to see him at the Pizza Express Jazz Club, which is amazing. And
just round from Soho Square.
Yeah. And so they just do like an hour of improv. And like they invite random people up, and sometimes you can come and bring your own instruments, and and it's like this is a skill within the skill itself.
Definitely,
it really is.
It's like somebody said once, jazz. It's just like people arguing, which I thought was quite funny. But I can understand why people don't get jazz, because it can be a bit, when it's free form, it can be a bit strange, I suppose. But.
Yeah. And in getting into composing, was that something which was always a route for you, or were you starting thinking, I want to do music in some form, be in a band, or?
I definitely wanted to be in a band, and I was in bands.
Yeah,
that was initially how I saw it going.
Yes,
and even though I probably look back and maybe a bit disappointed it didn't work, I'm also more verging on the side now, thinking actually I'm glad that didn't work out, because unless you're in a band that's just going to last forever, you can have a very quick career and then probably find it very difficult to get it back into music, whereas everybody's going, oh, that's that guy from
30 years ago.
Dodgy group. Do you remember them in the big trousers? So might not take you seriously enough. So
did you feel pressure maybe because your dad was in it to follow that path initially, or because obviously it's when you see steps taken by your father, it's quite easy to go,
well, I was originally in the very early bands I was in. I was the drummer.
Oh, really?
And that was probably to do with the fact that I had drum kits available.
Yeah. Was that the first instrument you learned?
Yeah, I think I probably played the drums first.
Wow.
And then, because Dad also wrote music, so there was all pianos and keyboards about. But I was a drummer. I remember my grandma, my mum's mum, said to me once, I probably was about 10 or 11. She heard me banging away on the drums somewhere, and she just said to me, "You'll never be as good as your dad." And sort of that was always in the back of my mind. And then when I got to about 16, I decided, no, I'm not going to be a drummer.
Wow. Was that a kind of recurring thought then up to that point of, I want to break out of his shadow a little bit?
Yeah, I was. I'm not saying I would have been a great drummer, but I was quite good.
Yeah.
And maybe if I'd have stuck at it.
No, interesting. That's so interesting, actually.
And I still play.
Yeah.
Like if I need some drum parts playing and they're not too complicated, I quite enjoy playing. I've got a kit set up in my studio, so I'll always have a go.
Mm-hmm. And what point did composing then come into the frame? How old were you when you started doing that?
I think I remember being at school and we had a school band and we used to do what was always the easiest stuff. So not putting them down because I love them, but we do a lot of status quo stuff. Just. And I remember writing a song because one of my friends got caught smoking and was suspended for 2 weeks. So I wrote a protest song for him, basically based on a status quo song. And I just rewrote the lyrics and everything. But I remember writing it and we played it and everyone went, wow, this is fantastic. And I thought, oh, okay, that was quite good. So I was probably about 14 when that happened. And then I quickly got into wanting to write.
And were you, like, on a bit of a left field, were you very good at English and that kind of stuff of putting it together? Was that something which helped you understanding?
As far as school stuff is concerned, I was only ever good at English.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was it. I love writing essays and doing that kind of stuff. Anything else, I'd say I probably wasn't good at it just because I didn't really try. Okay. I kind of knew quite early like before I took O levels, which was, I don't know what they're called now, but
are they A or GCSEs? How old? 16, 18?
Yeah, because I left school at 16.
Okay, yeah, so GCSEs.
So yeah, so before that even happened, I already knew what I was going to do, and I sort of knew that I didn't really need to pass a load of exams.
Okay.
Although, funnily enough, with maths, I've got quite good at maths because you do need to be slightly mathematical to do some parts of music.
Really?
Especially film music and stuff. You have to sort of,
Is that just timing wise?
Yeah, it's all time. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I sort of knew, like we had the careers advice guy came along, and I remember sitting outside, and as everybody went in, they were maybe in there 20 minutes, half an hour. I was thinking, God, this is going on forever. And I walked in and sat down, and the guy said, "So, Bennett, what do you want to do?" Looking at my results, I said, "Well, I think I'd like to be a musician." Okay, right, send Perkins in, please. And that was it.
Did you? What was the kind of like feeling with that? Was it just that was the only option you were ever going to have, or was it something like you could?
Do you know what? I can't even remember thinking. I'm not sure I can. I was nearly going to say then I can't remember thinking I'm going to fail, but I can't remember thinking at any time I'll need a backup.
Wow. Okay.
But I don't know why I thought that. I don't think I was arrogant.
Yeah.
I just thought maybe wrongly, this will be fine.
The naivety of it, actually.
Yeah, that's more it. That's right. That's exactly it.
That's so interesting.
It's the naivety of thinking, well, I'll just be a musician then.
Yeah.
And I will be one.
And what was your parents like, though, when you said that? Were they... Because I do it too often, but I refer back to Dad with me. I wanted to do art, and he's like, "You need to do architecture because it's going to give you a good backup in case, and then you go to art later."
Yeah,
and then it you never go back to art. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like, were your parents kind of very free to say, "No, you follow your passion, you do something which you feels right for you," or were they like, "Listen, we're in this industry, we know it's tough, maybe try something else"?
I think my mum was, out of the two of them, maybe a little bit wary because she had met my dad when he was right at the beginning of his career. And so she saw
the struggle.
Because there's always moments in everybody's career, no matter what you do, there's points, which I always think, I'd love to read a book where somebody asks all the sort of really successful people, there must be a point where you look back and go, God, thank God I didn't go that way.
Yes.
Because then I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And so my mum saw a lot of that. And I think she was probably thinking, oh, crikey, I hope he's all right. Whereas Dad just encouraged me.
Was that the same when you were younger as well? Like it was... Because again, I've listened to and seen a lot of like parenting advice where a lot of people who encourage their kids to go and try stuff and let them fail.
Oh yeah, you've got to fail. Yeah,
the kid
I think so.
Then is braver in their decisions because failure is not a scary thing.
Yeah.
But the parents who hold the kid back and stop them from failing as much.
Yeah, definitely.
But your parents kind of free to let you go and do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
The only other thing I thought I wanted to do, but I didn't. I mean, I signed up for a postal course, but I never really did it. I did fancy journalism, but specifically probably sports journalism.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd love to have. I probably wasn't that serious about it, but I can imagine how good it would be to go to all the big events and
write about them
and be good at it. Be the guy that people actually go, no, I'd rather be interviewed by you. And meet all the greats.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you decided to want to be a musician, in that vision in your head for what it was going to be, how different, I know you said you want to be in a band, but how different has it been to how it's turned out, and what things have been similar? And
I'm not sure how.
Or was it not clear?
I remember thinking, initially I thought, I want to be in a band. And we had some records come out, and you kind of think, this is it. It's coming out next week. That means in 2 weeks' time, I'm a pop star or something stupid like that. And then that doesn't quite work out the way you want it to. And I think as long as you expect to fail now and again, and you can accept it, you're okay. I think as soon as you hit the first problem, if you get deflated, there's no good. You just got to keep going.
Yeah.
So I had all of that. I had the records out, and then it was EMI, saying you're dropped. But you just carry on. You just keep going.
And you work towards some sort of vision, I guess, as well.
And then you do, as you get older, you change your mind as to, well, okay, maybe I'm not going to be the Beatles. Maybe I'm going to be. So you try and do something else, but it's something you still want to do.
Yeah, it's an evolution.
Music, yeah. And I think if you are in it as a writer, you can change a lot. I think if you've got one thing you want to do, you can keep going. But I decided to just change gears a little bit, and rather than do the pop group route, I got into writing for production music, like what they call library music. And then that got me into doing other things.
And that lead to the kind of composing the TV shows.
Yeah, and doing that.
Interesting. And so how...
Actually, no, I tell a lie from earlier. I did have a job. When I left school, I've forgotten, see. I left school and I got a job working for a library company, Bruton Music. I worked while I was getting the band going.
Yes.
So from the age of 16 to probably 18 or 19, I worked for a company called Bruton Music, who's a library company. And I was their T-boy.
Okay.
And I learned to edit tape. It was all on tape then. There was no,
It
was vinyl and tape. And there was a guy there called Robin Phillips who my dad knew. And he was great. After a while, he said, "Oh, you write, don't you? Would you like to write the B-side of this album we're doing?" So he asked me to write.
Wow, okay.
And that was good.
That's an opening as well, isn't it?
That was very lucky.
Yeah.
And then I left when I signed the record deal. But that was a good experience.
That gives you the door back as well to prove you can go and do it as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so what I guess in general, how would you describe composing then in a sense for someone who doesn't know? Like, what is the basis of your day to day or week to week?
Well, there's lots of different ways of doing it. One is if I'm employed to do a television show or a film or something, then that's a specific job. And you talk through with the director what they want you, where you want the music, what they want it to be, and then you just get on with it. And so you've got deadlines and you're writing for them.
Have they filmed what they want it to be by that point?
It's all done, and they've edited.
Okay.
So you're just watching the finished thing.
Yeah.
But I like to get involved a little bit earlier so I know what's coming.
Okay.
Or it could be a production music thing where someone says, we want an album's worth of nature music.
Okay.
But then you're a little bit freer to make the music as long as you want it to be. Whereas with the TV stuff, it might be 20 seconds here, 30 seconds, 4 minutes. But I generally every day, even if I've not got a job on, I still go into my studio and turn it all on and try and write something every day, even if I never use it.
Well, it's just practicing, isn't it?
Yeah, just keep. And I've got on my iTunes in the studio, I've got folders and hundreds of pieces of music.
Really?
Some are like 10 seconds, some are 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And every now and again, I'll play through them. If I'm doing like some tidying up, I'll just go, I'll play these from a few years ago, and I'll go, whoa, that's good. Now I might work on that.
Yeah.
Or I'll hear something and go, oh, that's where that came from. Something I did recently. I've gone, I wrote that 3 years ago, and it was in the back of my mind.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because I think if you stop I remember a friend of mine who's a composer, he was the complete opposite. So he at the time was going through a period where he didn't have anything coming in. And he was getting a bit worried, but he's fine now. He's doing really well. And I said, well, what do you do then? And he said, take the dog for a walk. I said, but you've got to write. And he said, but what for? And I said, well, just so you don't forget.
Well, it's for the art, isn't it?
Well, I said, I've done stuff where I haven't maybe driven a car for 3 months. You get in, you go, right, I'll just double check. That's how it works.
Clutches that foot.
You don't want to be like that in front of
of course,
someone.
And yeah, of course. And then, as I said, it's for you. It seems it's the love of the art of going up there as well. It's the discipline.
Yeah.
Also, you're practicing to a point so you're ready when the opportunity comes, which is something else which a lot of people say is like you just do it until the opportunity's there, and then you're ready to take that opportunity.
Yeah, and also I actually really like it, so I do stuff for me as well. So I've got sort of, I wouldn't call them albums, but I've got bits of music that I've written, but I've done them because I know they're not going to be worth playing to anybody else, but they're a bit experimental and I like them. So I do it just to amuse myself sometimes.
Interesting. How do you start? Because when you were saying about the TV production stuff, how do you start writing a piece? Like what
for television?
Yeah, for television. If you see a scene, you go, what's your first part?
That's the important thing about when you meet with a director, and you have to. I've never not got on with a director, so. That you've got to remember that they've probably spent the best part of, a lot of their time filming, editing this thing. And so they're coming to you, and usually music's the last thing that's done, apart from the final mix of everything.
Yeah.
So they've spent, maybe if it's a 1 hour TV show, maybe they've spent a couple of months filming it. And in their mind, they've also spent 2 months imagining what the music's going to be. So I think the first job you have is to try and get from them what that is. Because sometimes if someone isn't musical, they know what they want to hear, but they can't tell you musically what it is. So you've got to try and get that out from them. And then you kind of watch each scene, and it's amazing how different you can make a scene with the wrong music. So I just get inspired by the director, first of all, and then they leave you alone, hopefully, for a bit. And you just watch it. And the way I do it, I mean, I'm sure everybody does it differently, is I do it a lot with my writing, is I kind of hear it.
So you hear the first instrument?
I don't watch it and go, sometimes, but I watch it and I'm going, oh, that'd be nice. So in my mind, I'm kind of hearing it.
Is that from
as if it's already been done? So I think more often than not, I hear all the instruments. So if I hear it start with a small piano thing, then I hear all the things come in, and then what I then try and do is do a quick sketch, or I might even just hum it into my phone, and then I'll just start building from there. Not every time, but that's a lot of how I do it. I know it sounds a bit strange.
No, I'm
sure there are some people that also do it like that, but a lot of people I would imagine go, what's he talking about?
No.
But I do. It's like when I go out for a walk, I'm always got my phone, because I sometimes think, oh, that'd be good for that thing. And I can hear it, and I just maybe talk into it.
Yeah.
Like, cello's coming now. Sounds a bit pompous, but
no, I get that.
It's just how I do it.
Yeah. I think it's an experience thing, but also I can relate to it with my art. So if I've seen a building I want to paint and I find a photo of it, I'll look at that photo and I'll sit with that for like months. Like I don't paint straight the next day. And I'll be like, okay, look at the light, look at where's the lines, what's going to draw the eye, and you start constructing it in your mind, and then you get to the art board, and you go, right, okay, first things.
Yeah, great.
First stage done.
Yeah.
And it's like you're laying your bass lines, basically.
But when you're laying your bass lines, can you actually see
I know what it's
kind
of
what
like.
It's going to look like at the end?
Yeah, without it being super clear, I can see. Do you know what I can see? I can see the impact I wanted to have.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I can put down one little piano line, but I can hear everything else that's going to go on top of it, kind of in my mind. Not exactly, but I know what it's going to sound like. So if somebody says to me, can we hear where are you at so far? And you go, well, it's going to be, don't worry about it. It's going to have, and they go, oh, it's just a piano. He's just written a piano.
How much are we paying him?
What's he doing this? This is this guy. So it's interesting, isn't it? I think a lot of people are
it's
like
creatives.
That. It's really hard to describe to somebody who goes, because they want to hear it or they want to see it.
I think it's process, because I also relate it to the fact that a lot of people say to me, oh, I don't know how to draw. I can't draw.
But they can.
And they go, well, you just don't know how to draw in your style.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody can do anything they want to do, but the thing is, you compare yourselves to the very best.
Yeah.
And then, you probably can't replicate that.
No.
But you could do something in your style. And the thing is like everybody's art or skill or passion they've gone through is just their style of it and their interpretation of it.
Yeah.
And people just liked it.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the biggest mind block, I think, to a lot of this kind of process.
Definitely.
And that's why it's so interesting understanding the process, because it's actually your thinking approach to it, which is, that's where people don't get it. They don't see that you break it down into steps and you build up the layers and the layers and layers. It reminds me of, did you ever see the interview with Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer talking about Interstellar and the music for that?
I didn't see that, no.
Okay, so Christopher Nolan went to him and said, Hans, what I want you to do is to write a little bit of music delicately about the relationship between a father and a daughter and the love and the missing and the bond they have, but they're missing each other. So he writes this lovely, delicate piece. He says, this is it. Here goes, Chris. And then Chris goes, this is it. This is the essence of the movie. And he goes, so what is the movie going to be about? And he goes, space. And Hans Zimmer goes, space? This isn't the music for space. He goes, no, this is the essence of my film. And it kind of flips what you're saying, but it's still very interesting in terms of that approach of, you give a little bit of guidance, you let someone go with it. And then as creators, you flow together, don't you?
Yeah. No, brilliant. Because if Christopher Nolan had just said to him,
write me something about space,
we're doing a space movie.
Yeah.
It would have been massive.
Yeah.
But he wanted.
It's so delicate.
Yeah.
It is so delicate. And I think it's part of the skill with the director as well as the composer is knowing, as I said, the messages you need to know, and for you knowing how to extract what you need from that director.
It's interesting when people do certain things with music where you just think, I don't even know how you would. Why has he done that? I remember there's a car chase in a film called Bullet with Steve McQueen in San Francisco, I think, where his car's going mad and everything, and he's got this sort of jazz thing going on, and but it's so famous and it's so brilliant that you don't query it.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, you think, well, most people would just be going, da, 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 and he's just going, do, do, do. But it's brilliant. It's really
it's
good.
An oxymoron on the scene in some way, isn't it?
It's just ridiculous. But and I'd love to. I sometimes think to myself, how on earth did somebody even imagine that? Like Ennio Morricone with some of his spaghetti western music. And this is before, obviously, well before computers, where he could sit at home and go, oh, it might sound like this, and I've got, what's the sound of a whistle? Oh, yeah, I'll play this. He would just write out this stuff for twangy guitar, whistles, and weird sort of sounds. How did he?
No, 100%. I mean, what's going on in his mind?
Exactly. I'd love to know. There's points in time where people have done things. So there's a point where, because you know how boring I can be about the Beatles. So there's a point in time where yesterday doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so Paul McCartney's sitting there and he's going, I've got to write some songs. And he comes up with this song. What's he thinking at that point where before he even says to anybody, what do you think of this? There's a point where he sits with it on his own.
Yeah.
And he must know, God, this is a bit good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like for you with certain drawings or paintings, there's a point where somebody goes, crikey, I know I'm good, but
I haven't reached that yet.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All these people that do things.
Yeah. I've listened a lot to Chris Martin talk about this.
Okay.
And when they wrote Yellow,
he
was doing an impression of who was it? I can't remember. It was a musician. He was just taking a mic, and he was just saying, "Look at the stars.
Oh, okay.
Look how they shine for," and like doing this American accent.
Kermit.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's exactly what it sounded like. But it was someone else he was impersonating.
Right.
And it came out in 5 seconds, and he goes, "Hold on," and he ran to the loo, wrote the rest of the song.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? It's you can't sometimes pin it. I don't think.
No, I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I think you can sit down and go, I need to write something because they're coming over tomorrow. You can do something and it can be really, really good. But some things that just happen, and you go, blimey, what made me do that?
How do you get to those states of creativity and flow?
It doesn't have. I must, without wishing to sound big time or anything, but there are points where I've done some things on some jobs where I've and they're just happy accidents where you're sort of playing something and you go and sometimes I'm looking at the screen and my hands are moving around and I'm going, oh, what did I just do? I like that. So
the mistakes.
Yeah, the mistakes.
That I
hear that a lot with people.
That's my art.
Yeah,
my whole style's come from a mistake.
Yeah. And there's lots of occasions where you go, oh, that's interesting. And then somebody will say, you're not really supposed to do that. And you go, yeah, but it sounds good. It sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And they go, well, yeah, but... And you go, well, I don't care.
Yeah. Interesting. And does that give you confidence then to try new things as well? It's like your failures have like really grounded and helped you build a style to what you like to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to worry about what people would think about, maybe measuring you up against someone else or something. But I think as time goes on, you just think to yourself.
Where do you reckon that worry came from before?
Possibly a fear of failure, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember having it for a long time, but I think when you first start, you do think, God, I've been offered a job. If I mess this up, I may never get another one.
Yeah.
The early stages of when you first get into things.
Yeah.
And also the first time you're on a job and say that series comes to an end and they're not making any more. The first time that happens and the phone doesn't ring for like a month, you think, I'm not going to work again ever. Nobody cares.
No one knows who I am.
I think everybody has that.
Yeah.
But once you get over that and you think, oh, after a while you go, oh, right, a couple of months off. I could do with a couple of months off. I'll try a few things out.
Yeah. And is that? Do you find that space you're created by the lack of work as well also helps you kind of evolve and grow and almost shed a skin from the previous?
Definitely, definitely. Because there have been a few times where I've been silly busy, where I've taken on too many things. I remember I was on tour, and I was also doing 2 TV shows at the same time.
Oh, bloody hell.
And there were points on the tour where I would have a day off. So I would be, say, in Copenhagen. I would not tell anyone, fly back on the early flight, get into my studio, write a load of music for a TV thing, fly back that night, get up the next morning to do the show.
Wow.
And you kind of do that when you're young and silly.
Yeah.
But
was it the exhilaration of that which you enjoyed with that?
It's just the fear of turning anything down.
Oh, really?
And the fear of like God, if I turn them down, they won't ask me to do anything else ever again.
Mm.
So you do, when you're a lot younger, you just
have to say yes to things.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's, that's just the whole thing, I think, of working for yourself.
Mm. Mm.
And I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't do it now. Because you, like you say, the space is good.
And people don't know how to create space. I find.
And also when you're really busy, you do tend to, because everybody has a few sort of tricks. Like, so if you're really up against it, you just go, oh, okay, well, I know this always works with this kind of thing. So I'll just do that again.
Yeah.
So you can get into that mode.
Yeah.
Which is, but that's that old saying of, I asked Warren Bennett to do a thing the other day. It only took him 5 minutes. And you go, well, yeah, but it took me 5 minutes, but 40 years and 5 minutes.
Yes, exactly.
Because I kind of knew what you meant straight away, so I could do it.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's that. But then, like you say, I think to have time off is good.
And you've done a lot of composing with your dad as well, and
yeah, we've done stuff together. Yeah,
how's that as well, working with?
That's really good.
Are you now equals in terms of, or do you always look up to him and look for?
I'll probably always look up to him in a way, but I think because we're slightly different in the way we do things, it works.
Okay, how are you different?
Although he does use like computer stuff a lot. When we first started working together, he was still very much, he'd write stuff down and just do piano based.
Wow. And
I would come in with my stuff on in those days would be a floppy disk, and I'd just chuck it in the computer and go, I've done this bit. And he'd go, oh, okay, I've written this. And it would be on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
That's how we would start when we first started working together. But I think, we kind of intuitively know what each other's good at.
And do you kind of give each other that kind of energy and more creativity when you work together?
Yeah, I think so.
They always say that, like, if you, it's like working in an office, being around people, you get more energy off them, and you could take ideas.
Yeah, because I like working with people as well as I would probably say I prefer working on my own, because I quite like being on my own, which is probably a good thing if you're going to be a composer.
Yes.
But every now and again, I'll go, God, I really want to work with somebody, get someone round and do things. So bouncing off people is always good. I've gone back to writing songs again, actually. When the lockdowns happened, lots of things just stopped. And I remembered that I used to love writing songs, and I hadn't done it for ages. And I'd worked on someone's album a few years before, a singer, Michael. And I just phoned him and I said, look, nobody's doing anything. I've got some songs, and I know you're a really good lyricist. Why don't we just try and... And we ended up writing about 60 songs.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah. So I'm trying to almost get back into that a bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
It was another thing that I hadn't done for so long. And I went, oh, yeah, I can still do that.
And it sparks something inside you as well, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is the part of creativity as well. It's like, once it becomes mundane and stuff like that, you then do it as a chore.
Something different.
You have to flip it.
It's like I'm not a very good guitar player.
Okay.
But I've got lots of too many guitars. but I can write on a guitar.
Interesting. How's that different to playing then?
Because I'm very restrictive to what I can play on a guitar, because I'm not very good.
Okay.
So my melody lines are very good when I'm playing the guitar, because they need to be to cover up the fact that I'm only playing a few chords. Whereas on a piano, I know what...
You've got a far greater capability.
I can still write a nice melody on a piano, but I find with the guitar, I really stretch the melodies a lot just to cover that up.
Interesting. And do you find, and again, I've spoken to a few people about this, with like creative people sometimes feel like they're very isolated from other people. You're in your head a lot.
Yeah.
Like, have you found that where you've just been in places where you're like, right, no one freaking understands me or understands?
Oh yeah, all the time.
And how
you don't understand what I'm going through. It's funny because I remember somebody said something really funny once. Well, it wasn't funny at the time. I was quite offended. I'd done one of the first things I'd done that I could use a full orchestra, and it was a version of it was an ITV production of Wuthering Heights, and it was a TV film, so it's and orchestra and everything, and I was really proud of it, and I still am. It's still one of the best things I think I've ever done, and a friend of mine said to me, "Oh, all right, Warren, what have you been up to then?" And I did this film thing that was on telly recently. He said, "What's that then?" It's the Wuthering Heights. He said, "Oh yeah, we watched that. There wasn't any music in it." I went, "What do you mean? It was all the way through it." He said, "Was it? Oh, okay." But actually, that was probably
that's a great thing.
A kind of a good thing because it didn't get in the way and it wasn't obtrusive or anything. But at the same time, I was like, "What are you talking about?" It's the best thing I've ever
done. I think that's the essence, though, of something good. It doesn't distract the viewer. It's when you go, why the hell is that there?
Yeah, why is this music? Like, you do see people commenting on things and they go, and I get it sometimes. I've watched things where I've gone, bloody hell, it's just wall to wall.
Yeah. Are you super judgmental on that kind of element then? You're watching a TV show and you go, In
my mind I am, but I would never, outside of watching it on my own, I would never say to anybody else, "Did you see that? What a load of..." Because I just think, well, whoever's done it, they've spent a long time and that's so good for them.
But to yourself, though, you listen and you go, okay, I'll do that differently.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Because, again, it's weird. At architecture school as well, they evolve the way you think. So you go in every single building and go, oh, I wouldn't put that door there.
Yeah.
What's that light switch doing over there?
Yeah.
And it's like you get so engrossed in that way of seeing the world. You go, this is the way I do it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like an obsession.
Also, I'm aware that even though I might not like the music on this particular program, I'm aware that the actual composer might not even like it because he's been told that we want it to be that.
Interesting.
That can happen.
Interesting.
Where you go, well, you write everything and then they go, oh, we don't like it. And you go, well, okay, short of me saying, if you don't like my music, I'm off. You just go, well, what do you want? And they might go, we just like tubas all the way through. We want trombones and things. And you go, really? Okay.
Yeah. Well,
that's what you want.
Well, it's a job as well at the end of the day, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Unless you've made the film yourself, you are working for someone.
Yeah. Interesting.
And they are paying the bill.
Yeah. And they are boss.
Hopefully.
Who were your kind of biggest early influences as well? And who are your influences now? Who do you look at now as well?
For writing, well, the first time I was really aware of film music and that it existed was when we used to go on family holidays when I was younger. My dad always carried with him a portable record player.
Oh, wow.
And he'd take a few albums with him and play. And one of the albums he had that I remember from when I was quite young was a John Barry album. I've bought it now on vinyl, and I think it's called. One of them was called Ready When You Are JB, and the other one was called maybe just the music of John Barry, and it had all his film stuff on it. So it had some Bond stuff, but it had the Ipcress File and Seance and a Wet Afternoon, and all these films. And I just remember thinking, what is that? Why? I don't even know what this music is. It's not classical music, but it's not pop music.
What's its purpose?
I didn't even understand that. When Dad was playing it, I was thinking, what is it?
Yeah.
There's no words. There's nothing going on. And that fascinated me. And I'm still a massive John Barry fan. So he's an influence. John Williams, I like most of his stuff. Then there's TV composers that I really like. I love the music for things like Vera's. I love the score for that because it's just brilliant. I just like music that works and becomes like the music that Barrington Phelan wrote for Morse was just as much for me as part of the whole show as, John Thor was brilliant. The camera work was always brilliant, the direction, the scripts, but the music was part of it. So I like that stuff.
What about, we talk about the Beatles as well,
Mad still on anything to do.
And why?
Together and apart, I like them.
Why?
Because I think the thing that I mainly like most about any music is melody.
Okay.
I just like tunes.
Yeah.
So, that's it. And I think they wrote the best tunes. And I like the whole story. So once I got into the music, I then got into the story of how they got together. And I just think it's the most amazing story ever. There's a journalist, Pete Paphides, who I've met a few times, and he said to me once, the thing about the Beatles story is it's a bit like driving from Land's End to John O'Groats and every light is green. They just... It's just the most ridiculous story.
The perfect alignment. Exactly.
They're like, how did those four people happen to all be in one band? It's incredible.
Especially at that time as well, because they were pioneers, I guess, in terms of bringing a whole different style of music out there, which was a bit more
incredible. And I just like the whole thing.
Yeah, interesting.
But then I like lots of different bands. Funny with the Beatles was I remember one thing Dad did do. I still am a big fan of Jeff Lynne and ELO. And I remember I was playing, I think it was a New World Record or Out of the Blue, Constantly. And he came into my bedroom and he went, "This is all great." He said, "But please listen to this." And he gave me Sgt. Pepper. And I realised there, oh, okay, Jeff Lynne's a Beatles fan. And then I started going backwards.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you can clear it all together.
And I went, oh, okay, I get it now.
Do you think they're the most influential group ever in terms of the way they have changed modern music and the way we see bands differently?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of brilliant bands that don't like them.
Yeah. But without realising.
But I'd say more. I say people that even don't like them probably don't realise that they probably were influenced a little bit by them.
Yeah.
Or there's always something, even if it's nothing to do with the music. It's the way they revolutionised working in the studio, the way they used tape, the way they did things, the way they brought different instruments in.
Interesting.
Yeah. The way the album became more important to them as they went on. Whereas I remember, especially from my dad's era with his band, it's basically loads of hit singles are great. I mean, they brought albums out, but apart from the first couple of Shadows albums, I'm not sure people ever go, oh man, I've just been playing Jigsaw, which is one of their albums. I don't hear people saying that, but I hear people saying, oh, I played Rubber Soul the other day, amazing.
Yeah, I have that with like Dark Side of the Moon as well.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Flows for it.
So there is a point where the Beatles, I think, took the album and went, this isn't just a means of selling you some stuff that you've already got as singles. This is probably hasn't got the singles on it. So
that is so. Actually, I didn't even realise that as well. And that point of view, like for me, an album's always been like a story.
Yeah.
And so people were selling before, I guess, in more individual kind of 3-minute stories, and then interesting. Creative block. Have you ever had it? And if you have, what would you do to avoid creative block?
I've never had it.
Okay. Do you think that's because you do it every day?
Yeah, I think that's the key. I think if you stop for a few months because you're not working, when you come back, you might initially panic. Then you might. I mean, there's been times where I've looked at a scene on a screen when I'm supposed to be writing something for that scene and gone, oh, I can't think of anything to do here. But that's not a block, really. I'll just go to the next scene
and come back to
then come back to it.
Interesting.
But I've never had what I've read about, like people just going, I can't do it anymore. I guess it's the same as getting the yips when you're putting, isn't it? Or something. No, I've never had.
Do you when you go away on holiday and stuff, do you do any like music? Like, do you take a little keyboard, or do you like write it, or do you?
I don't take a keyboard, but I personally, I'm always thinking of music. So it's like coming here on the train, little bits of tunes and things. And anywhere, I'll just be thinking of something. And the thing is to try and remember it.
It's probably easier now to do that, though, than ever before. As you said, with phones.
It is. And that's another thing, going back to the old days in groups and thing. I remember an interview recently with Paul McCartney saying that they would write a song. So if they were on tour and they wrote a song, the key was if they woke up the next morning and went, what was that song we wrote yesterday? If they couldn't remember it, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah. Ah, yes. Yeah.
But if they could remember it, oh, it must be good.
Yes.
Whereas now we have the ability to remember everything, which probably isn't great.
That's a really...
Which goes back to what I said to you right at the beginning was I've got on my iTunes hundreds of pieces of music.
Yes.
And I do. When I play something back, I go, crikey, that's not very good. So you have the ability now to record everything you do. You've just got to be really good as your own editor.
Yes, you have to learn how to edit your own life in that sense.
You have to be, pretty harsh.
What's your hardest lesson you've had to learn from a mistake you've made, or something that's gone wrong with something you've done? Maybe you haven't made any mistakes.
Oh, I've probably made tons of them, but maybe
has anything shaped?
Maybe a lot of them haven't been pointed out to me.
Still
that makes sense.
Yeah.
They might sort of like go. It's like you might pitch for a program.
Yes.
And then you get the call and they say, "Oh no, we've decided to go with." And you go, and I always say, "Great, good luck. I hope it goes well and everything." And they go, "I didn't have the heart to tell him it was just shit."
Do you have anything
that's possible?
Do you have anything that shaped you to change the way you've done a style? Is there anything where you went, right, I need to slightly veer?
I don't think so.
No. But I presume your style's evolved over the whole period of time.
Yeah.
So what is it that's evolved?
And I don't think I've got one particular style. I think I can be quite diverse. I can change.
Yeah.
If somebody says they want something like that, I'll do it.
Yeah.
You don't always get it right, but I think you have to be. Yeah, you have to be able to chop and change, and I suppose you could write in one style, but that you're going to get pigeonholed early.
Yeah,
you've got to be able to adapt, and also adapt midway through. Sometimes you have the initial discussion with someone, and you start writing the music, and they can change their mind once they hear what.
Yeah,
because that's when you realise that they might not know how to describe what they want. So you think you've sussed it out, and you go, "Oh, I get it. They really like that style of music." And then you do it, and they go, "Oh, I don't like that." You go, "Oh, I got that wrong."
How do you react in that moment then?
You just don't take it personally.
Okay.
That might be one way I've adapted, is not to take things personally anymore.
Did you used to take it personally?
I think when it's the same old thing. I think with anything, with any job, when you're younger, you think you know it, don't you? I know what I'm doing. So anytime someone says, I'm not sure about that, you go, what do you mean?
Mm.
And then as you get older, you just go, okay, well, let's fix it.
Mm. That's interesting, because before this we were talking about football managers and Klopp and Pep and and Sir Alex, how they'd have these perfect visions in their head for how they want to play.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't go how it works out, they actually get very irate over it. And...
But the one thing I remember with Sir Alex Ferguson, the one defeat I remember was the Champions League final at Wembley.
Barcelona.
Pep's Barcelona beat United. It's the only time I saw him stand up at the end of the game, and he went up to Pep. And if you watched the handshake at the end, it's the only time I think he ever goes, "You're just too good."
Mm.
He didn't even entertain the fact that, if we'd have done that, or I think he just went, "We don't beat this team tonight. This is too good."
Mm. Mm. Interesting.
Any other time, he'd have had a go at everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true, isn't it? With you see, you do. You see it with everybody in every sport or music or anything like writing or drawing or painting. As people get older, they do change. I think everybody changes their, ideas of how they're perceived, how they react with people who maybe criticize them.
I think there's an element of it as well. It becomes less personal to the outside world, but more meaningful for yourself. So you do it more for yourself rather than the appease and the pleasing of people.
Yes. Yeah.
So you don't actually mind what people think, because you go, well, this serves me.
Yeah. And once you're happy with yourself as well, once you're...
How long did it take for you to become happy with yourself?
I don't think I'm totally happy with myself, but there is a point where you just think, yeah, okay, I'm okay now. I feel nothing doesn't bother me that he doesn't like that, or I have to change that. Whereas when you're a lot younger, you go, what do you mean I've got to change it? This is me.
You like it or not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have to say, though, that I'm not sure I'd be able to start again now. I think I'd find it difficult I think it's a lot more difficult now to do what I do starting now.
Why is that?
Because I think when I started, if you wanted to, say, record an album for a library company, you had to go in, maybe play some demos on a piano. They'd give you studio time, and you go, right, I'm in next Wednesday at Lansdowne Studios or wherever it was. I've got one day. They've booked the musicians. It's got to be recorded between 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock, and then we're mixing it. Now, I could I could just buy a laptop, and there's a studio in there, which is great, but it means that everybody can do it. So the competition is huge. And I think you can almost bluff your way into a lot of situations.
Have you ever had like an imposter syndrome for it, where you've got somewhere and gone, God, how did I get here? Like,
yeah, definitely.
How do you deal with it?
I'm doing it now.
Really?
What am I doing on the Valley of Outlaws? How did I get in this room? I always think you do. I'm sure there's people that you wouldn't believe that have imposter syndrome. I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
People where you just go,
yeah.
Yeah. You'd be surprised, I reckon.
Well, I listened. Jimmy Carr was on Diary of a CEO, I think the second time.
Yeah.
And he was saying, if you don't have imposter syndrome, you're probably not doing something right. Like, you need to have imposter syndrome to feel on your edge.
Yeah, you do. I think I've always thought to myself that one day there's going to be a memo go round and go, we've sussed him out.
A bit like my dad on a golf course.
We've sussed him out. That Warren Bennett fella. Yeah, no. All along. I mean, not only that, but then I also had that thing about, not only do I have imposter syndrome, but I've also used to think to myself, I wonder if they think I'm only here because Dad. Because I remember I've had, usually wherever I go, people will go, oh, hi, Warren, how's your dad? Now, that's nice, but after a while, you just go, well,
I'm here as well.
Yeah, hello. There's a guy, I got introduced once to somebody that I wanted to be introduced to because I was hoping that I might be able to talk to him about doing some work. And another person introduced me to them and said, oh, I'd like you to introduce you to Warren. He's Brian Bennett's little boy. And at the time, I think I was 23.
Yeah.
And I thought, mate, I'm 23. Yeah. I'm nobody's little boy for a start.
It belittles you, doesn't it?
Well, I just thought, where do I go from here?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit like the criticism Brooklyn Beckham gets for starting all these different things. And they go, oh, it's David Beckham's son and he's getting all this limelight.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he is his own person in that sense.
Yeah, is he the guy that did the cooking?
Yeah.
Cookering?
Cookering.
Cookering is a new word, by the way.
It's a great word.
That I've invented.
It's added to the Oxford Dictionary from tomorrow.
Cookering.
But he also did photography. Okay. He's jumped through loads of different things. And every single time he's tried something, classic Daily Mail, Brooklyn Beckham tries it again.
Yeah, you have to feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Do you change your name? I don't know.
No. Yeah.
I don't know what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's difficult. How did you get through it?
Cookering?
Yeah, cookering, yeah.
Oh, it was never really that bad.
Okay.
Like that, because, but I think people expect, they will say, oh, you're a drummer, or, was it, that thing, oh, was it your dad that got you into it and everything? Yeah, of course. Maybe, maybe not. But there's always been, it's like butchers. They're always called something and sons, aren't they? So, I mean, people don't go around and go, you're only a butcher because your dad was a butcher.
That's a good point. What does passion mean to you? And what does it mean to you to be able to follow a passion and do it day to day?
It's a difficult question. Do you mean passion as in what I do, or passion as in I'm passionate about something?
I mean, music is something which you're passionate about, and you get to do that every day. What does it mean to you to be able to do that every day and have a feeling of passion from it? I guess both.
Well, I never think it's a job. So I just love working, and I know there's only so many notes, and I'm sure everything's been done before. But there's moments where you're working and you do something and you go, "Wow!" But there's no one there. I mean, I've actually sat there sometimes on my own, and I've just gone. I've stood up, I scored a goal or something, and that's how passionate I get about it sometimes. Okay. Yeah, I just really love it.
There's nothing else you would do.
No, I mean, there's dream jobs, aren't there? I mean,
yeah.
I'd like to. You always have a list of stuff.
Yeah.
I've nearly crossed everything off. I don't think I'm going to win the Masters, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to play football for England. But you never know.
Well, it depends which team.
Yeah. So, yeah, I love it. Yeah. I love the fact that I don't think you ever think you've done the best you've done when you're a creative person. Now, it's highly likely that you probably have. Because when I look at other people that I admire and you see their careers and you go, I still love that period in the 70s, 80s, whatever it was. That's my favorite bit of him. But he is probably going, I haven't done my best thing yet.
Yeah.
And I think all creatives are like that, where they generally think, when I do my best work, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But you're loved because of a thing you did or a period of time where you were great. I suppose I suppose if you've been, like John Barry, people will like either his Bond era or I like his sort of just after that era. But up to when he died, he was probably still writing and thinking, this is the best thing I've ever done. So I don't think I think that's the key.
It's interesting because Carl Lionheart was Outlaw number 19. So he's an Australian singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
He was saying to me, his dad said to him, the thing with art is it's never finished, it's abandoned. You're never happy enough to finish it.
I've got a different take on that.
Okay, tell me.
And that's probably because of the TV stuff, you have deadlines. My motto is, nothing's ever finished. It just needs to be handed in. So there comes a point where they go, well, where is it? We need it because after Wednesday, it goes out on TV on Thursday. So you just go, I guess it's done then. So you just go, there it is.
Yeah.
Whereas you could leave me another month and I'll tinkle.
Really?
And I'll just change that bit. Nothing. I've never finished anything and gone, I can't improve it.
Really?
No, never.
Wow. Do you think that's a blessing or a curse?
And I hear stuff and I go, oh yeah, but I wish I'd just. Don't you do that when you finish something?
Yeah, yeah.
Say you sell something.
Yeah.
If you say you sold a piece of art to somebody, and 3 years later you randomly were invited to someone's house, and you went, "Where'd you get that?" And they said, "Oh, I bought it off this guy who you sold it to." You sit there and look at it and go, "See that bit there?"
Yeah. No, 100%.
I hated that.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to change it, but
yeah. No, I agree. That's what I do. Like, I look at it, I'll go back and I'll go to someone's house who's got a painting, and I'll be like, wouldn't do that next time.
Yeah, it's like I remember being on one of the Hank Marvin tours I was doing, and we did a very old Shadow song that I don't think they'd played before. We were doing it on his tour, and a guy came up to me afterwards, hanging around the stage door, and he said, "Oh, good show," and everything. He said, "But can you tell Hank something?" I went, "What?" He said, "He played the solo wrong in." And I went, "What do you mean?" And he said, "It's not the same." I said, "Yeah, but it's a solo. It's an improvisation thing. It's how he's played it tonight.
Yeah.
Come tomorrow night, he might do it how you like it." He
Yeah.
went, "No, it has to be like that." And it's that thing where in those days, Hank would have made that record, and that was the take. There was no overdubbing or anything. So he's probably spent, Hank, 40 years listening to this record going, "God, I hate that solo. If I ever get the chance to do it again, I'm doing it the way I should have done it."
Yeah.
So, but because it's the version that everybody knows, this guy couldn't handle it. He's done it wrong. No, he hasn't.
That's the same with Coldplay. Speed of Sound, they never play it. They hate it. One of their most famous songs.
There you go.
They refuse to play it.
Right.
And it's the same thing. Like you listen. It is when you're creative, you have that thing of like, okay, I can't see because there's such a glaring mistake in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What's your biggest self-limiting belief been, and how have you overcome it?
Oh. I know you wrote, because you very kindly sent me some of these questions, so I knew what we were talking about. And I've been worrying about you asking me this question because I can't, because I thought, oh, well, if I say what I'm going to sound, is it going to sound cocky? I don't know whether I've ever felt anything like that. Or unless how do you mean it? Do you mean like something where I've thought I can't do that?
Yeah, or something where you thought maybe I'm not good enough to do that. I shouldn't try that. Or like a lot of people, like, for example, for me, okay, so with the podcast, I say my biggest self-limiting belief before was maybe I don't like the sound of my voice, and so I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But that's my own personal perception of it. Whereas some people go to me, oh, your voice is great for podcasting. And it surprises me every time they say that.
Okay, so actually, something's now popped into my head. There's one thing that I've never done because I don't think I could do it, but I will do it one day. And that is when if I've written something and there's an orchestra there, I've yet to conduct the orchestra because I think it will be a shambles, and they'll all look at me and go, "Who is this guy?
What's he doing waving that stick over there?"
Who's this guy?" So how I get around it is if I've used an orchestrator, and that is somebody who actually literally writes it out, rather than me having to write it out, too busy or something, I'll ask them to do it.
Okay.
And I'll go because I want to be in the studio because I'll be with the director and I can
Interesting.
listen to it. So even though it's good to be in the studio so that you are with the director and everybody, so you can talk while it's being done. I kind of use that as an excuse not to put myself in the situation where I make an idiot of myself. So that's the only thing that
But that's brilliant, though.
I've yet to do, but I want to do it.
That's brilliant, though. Because also it's you've used that person there to go and do something of the part which you're probably most self-conscious of.
Yeah.
To cover you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's really interesting. Really interesting, actually. Because also, conducting a string orchestra there's an art to it as well, isn't there?
Oh yeah, I mean, my dad's done it. So what I would do if I was ever going to do it, I would probably ask him for some tips, or ask a few other people I know, just to say, look. But I remember going back to the thing we were talking about before, the first orchestral thing I did, the Wuthering Heights thing. I remember the day of the session, standing outside the studio and seeing them all arrive. I think it was Abbey Road, and all these musicians were arriving with them. I was outside looking at them thinking, God. The only thing that was in my mind was that I hadn't written anything good enough for all these people to play. Wow. And I was thinking, what? I should have spent more time. I should have written lots of notes. They're going to look at this stuff and think, this is rubbish.
Yeah.
Because they're proper musicians. Yeah. And here I am, Do you
not see yourself in the same light? A proper musician? Experienced composer? Do you not see yourself as that? Do you not?
No.
How do you see yourself?
Just somebody busking it, really. No, I probably a bit of both of those. Maybe half serious, half like you say, imposter syndrome. Half getting away with it.
Do you reckon that's a potential?
But then I do hear things like if something's repeated on the telly, and I go, "Oh, there's an old episode of something on," or there's that thing on, and I'll listen to it, and I go, "Oh, that's quite good, actually." Whereas probably at the time I was thinking, God, I scrambled to finish that one.
Yeah, interesting. That is very interesting. Because again, in the moment, you can't see the bigger picture with it.
No. And also, the other thing is, the longer you have to do something, I find, you get yourself into because you start redoing things. You start going, I can, if I've got another 3 weeks, maybe I'll change that. Whereas if you're panicking, and you're, even the night before, you're writing stuff, that usually tends to be really good because you're just forced.
And do you keep it more simple?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Be simple is always good.
Yeah.
Simple's I'm good at simple.
Less is more.
Simple's my middle name.
What does fulfillment mean to you?
Oh.
These are all the kind of the therapy questions now, by the way.
Yeah. Fulfillment. Just It's just if someone phones you up after it's all done and says, "Oh, I just wanted to say, that was really good. Good job."
It's enough.
Yeah. Because if they don't phone you, God, they hated it. No, that's always nice. Even,
Yeah.
just that the person that asked you to do the job in the first place, even if they just say thanks.
Yeah.
Then
there's appreciation for it.
Yeah.
How big is it for you to dream big when following a passion?
I think you have to dream bigger than you probably are going to get.
Why?
Because I don't think you should actually ever reach
the dream. Really?
No, I don't think you should.
Why?
Because then what are you going to do?
Have another dream?
Yeah, but then the first dream's always, I think you should just go, you should just aim way too high.
Do you think that?
Because then you never, ever get to the point where you go, oh, I don't have to try anymore. I'm just so good. Look at me. I think you just set the most ridiculous limit to everything.
Do you think that's why it's so impressive? People like, let's say, Tiger Woods and Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. It's because they've actually reached their dreams of being the best in the world, and they've maintained it for so long.
But I mean, I love Tiger Woods, and we're recording this just after the Masters.
Yeah.
That Scheffler won his second Masters. And I love the fact that I think it was after the second round where they were congratulating him on making the cut for the record number of years in a row.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really that impressed because his whole thing was, but I'm here to win.
Yeah.
And he really believed he could win.
Yeah.
And I'm so taken in by him that I believe him.
I think he could do.
I think he'll win one more.
Do you think so?
Yeah, as long as it's flat. So he doesn't have to walk uphill. But I love that.
Yeah.
And he's Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to even turn up anymore. But he's there, and he's not turning up to just wave at the crowd and go, "Hi, I used to be Tiger Woods.
I'm still Tiger Woods.
I'm still Tiger Woods, and I'm going to win." I think in that respect, golf is one of those sports that affords you that. Whereas, obviously, like football and everything, there is a limit where you just go, you seriously can't compete. But, yeah, I don't think Ronaldo thinks he's past his peak.
No. Well, he's certainly not scoring like he's past his peak, is he?
No, I love those people like that.
Yeah.
And then you see some people who are great and they win their one major or whatever they do. And then they kind of you just see them. You just think, well, okay, that's obviously, that was enough for you, which is fair enough. They still won a major. But
I think that's what separates the best from the best. So it's like one isn't enough. It's once you got there, that's the beginning of it. It's like, now I need to prove myself that I can do this again and again and again.
Yeah.
And then that's why, again, like someone like Graham Souness or Roy Keane, when they talk about football teams now, they go, well, they've won it once. That just means they're at the table to be good.
Yeah.
They have to win it now 4 times to be great.
Yeah. I remember Roy Keane saying that every year they came back, and this was in the peak Fergie Keane thing. It was in the dressing room, first day of the next season, he would look around and he could tell immediately who was satisfied with where they were at.
Yeah.
And they would usually not be there much longer.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a character though, isn't he, Roy Keane? He's fantastic. Okay, last 3 questions. How important is it for you to surround yourself with like-minded people?
Musically
in life. You can go down any avenue you want with this.
I mean, I enjoy talking to anybody that's successful.
Yes.
Regardless of, I'm fascinated. But that doesn't mean I just only want to mix with people that, I don't really.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said to you earlier, I'm fascinated by that whole thing of everybody's got a moment where they can go, like I said earlier, God, I'm glad I didn't say yes to that, or I'm glad I didn't take that position I was offered.
Yeah.
Where would I be now? But I guess I quite like talking to people that are,
Well, it inspires you, I presume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. You just, it could be business. It could be anything. I don't, it's funnily enough, I don't really go out with a lot of musicians.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm not, it's like when I go out, people always say, Ron, how you doing? You still, what you up to? And I just say, this and that. I'm not that interested in talking about
what you're doing.
That sounds ridiculous to do this.
I was going to say, welcome to the podcast.
Talk about me. But generally, I don't go out and spend an evening talking about me, what I'm doing. If they ask, I just can couple of sentences, then we'll move on.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think that actually, for me, there's a saying which I love, which is you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And when you're younger, your crowd you surround yourself with is so important to see where you're going to get to.
Yeah.
Because if your crowd just wants to go to the pub every evening and they want to go and piss about,
then
you know where you're going to be.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're around people who have got an ambitious kind of idea for themselves, you just don't know where you're going to go to. If you're the poorest out of your 5 closest friends, you're going to raise yourself up to a higher level.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. Always surround yourself with, if you can, surround yourself with people better than you. Never be the greatest guy in the room. I think, which is easy for me. No, it's like it's like somebody once said to me, we're getting musicians in to do things for you. So you write something and you think it's really good. Well, get in 3 or 4 great musicians that are better than you to play some stuff on it, and it gets even better. So always be prepared to let other people contribute as well to what you're doing. There's no point in hiring in, say I hired in a guitarist who was just the most amazing player. There's no point in me having him sit there and me tell him what to play. I might as well try and do it myself. Just say to him, look.
What can you come up with?
Yeah. How can you make me and this piece of music, how can you take it up a level?
That's funny because Rick Rubin said this. He said whenever they have a song, if they put out that first version of the song, it's not going to be great. That the song they need to get to has to change.
Yeah.
Because they bring in other people and say, how would you see this?
He's got a podcast that
he's great.
I like.
Yeah, he's good.
There's also a book I need to buy of his.
It's on my shelf. It's a creative act.
Yeah.
A way of being.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
His podcasts are great because he draws stuff out.
Well, I didn't realise he doesn't play music or he can't do any of it.
No, I know. It's incredible, isn't it?
He just has an opinion. And he said, in an interview, I heard him say, I trust my opinion enough that I'm confident I can sit in any room with anybody and contribute in a positive way.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There's a few I've listened to where he's been talking to people that he's worked with. And a bit like you've just said about these last questions you're talking about, he's almost a therapist to them in as much as what he does is he gets to know the person and he's in the studio with them and he just draws out that extra, even if it's an extra 5% that they didn't know they even had.
He's allowed them to be the best
there was
version.
one interview was it John Mayer interview I heard him do? It might have been him. And John Mayer more or less said at the end, well, You saved me a fortune in therapy. Yeah. Yeah. Always, yeah. Never be afraid to surround yourself with people much better than you. You have to. You can't just be, you can't just think you're great all the time, because you're not really. No one is really.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're Paul McCartney.
Unless you're Paul McCartney. Okay, what's the one lesson you have taught or would still like to teach Alice and Georgia about life and happiness?
My girls?
Yes.
Well, I'm sure that they've heard enough stories of me being a complete arse to know that. But I think if you can do a job where more often than not you can laugh and have a good time, then I think you're in the right job, regardless of what you're doing. So it doesn't really matter as long as you're enjoying yourself, and yeah, that would be it really. So it wouldn't bother me, whatever they did, as long as you could see that they were having a really great time doing what they were doing. I think that's
simple and it's
key
great
to life, isn't it?
Agreed. Yeah.
And generally, if you're doing that, hopefully, you get rewarded through it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. It's all also about. There's a lot of people that I've been guilty of it, and somebody said it to me recently. Actually, where I was trying to do something, and somebody said, "Why are you trying to be like that? You should just do your own thing." And I went, "Yeah, you're right. Sorry, got that wrong."
Interesting.
It's like you've always got to be reminded that if you're good at something, it's usually because you're doing it your way, rather than being a copy guy.
That's a great point. Because also you can start out by getting inspired by someone, and then you interpret it in your own way and evolve it.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is sometimes you hear an interview with somebody. For me, a music person, you hear an interview, and the guy will go, "And who inspired you?" And they'll say a name, and you go, "What?" And they'll explain why, and you go, "Oh, okay." You sound nothing like this guy, but actually, the inspiration wasn't necessarily the music; it was the way they did something, or something they said, or a
way of thinking.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, a way of thinking.
Final question.
Okay.
What are the keys to succeeding and following your dreams?
Wow.
Like to leave it tough at the end.
What are the keys to succeeding? Well, without being cocky, you've definitely got to working on your own and everything. You've got to have confidence in yourself. You've got to really be very confident enough to sort of, even play somebody something that you've done. Because there's a huge thing that happens where you can spend 2 weeks on your own writing stuff, and you're going, they're gonna love. They're gonna love this. And then the night before they're coming over in the morning to the studio, going, "Oh no, I haven't spent enough time on this. It sounds dreadful." And you're playing it back and you're going, "Oh God." So you've got to be confident. Obviously, I'm not. You got confidence in yourself. Again, just don't be afraid to fail. And at the same time, also, don't be afraid to just start again and just go, "It's not working. I'm chucking all this out and I'm going to start from the beginning." I don't know. It's a difficult question.
I think there's 2 brilliant answers, to be fair, though, because people get very precious over something they've done and they don't want to start again. Starting again is a very hard thing to do.
It's very difficult to do. Also, sometimes you can start again only to prove to yourself that actually you were right. I know that sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you can feel that you're going down the wrong road, and then you just go, right, forget that, it's rubbish, and start again and go, hang on a minute.
I'm back here again.
I think I was right first time.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah. So that can happen.
Yeah.
But I think, it is difficult working because you're on your own all the time. But as long as you enjoy your own company, can make a good cup of tea and know when to make a good decision, you'll make it.
Happy days.
Happy days.
That's a snapshot for the episode, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And do reformer Pilates if you've got a bad back and you like playing golf. Gem.
Hint, hint. Warren, thank you so much for joining me and coming on the Valley of Outlaws.
That was great.
I really appreciate your time.
And thank you very much for asking me.
No, it was someone on the list I wanted to have. You know, it's quite how many composers are there that people know in their lives, and talking to you about it and your process is actually so interesting as well, because no one thinks about the gap between getting given a job, how you even approach it, your first kind of steps through. Like, it's really unique.
I don't. It's going to sound funny, but I saw Alice, my eldest daughter, earlier, and said I was coming to see you. She said, "Oh, that'd be great." And I said, "I'm being honest. I don't really like talking about myself because I don't think I've got anything to say." And now I've been yakking.
You've been an hour and a half. You've been going.
An hour and a half yakking, and it is like a therapy session because you do. I would never have this conversation generally because I don't like going out, like I said earlier, and talking about myself. So I'll probably watch it and go, "Oh, that was quite interesting."
Who is this guy?
I know that about myself.
No, great.
Yeah, good.
Great. No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Valley of Outlaws podcast. Please follow us across Spotify and YouTube and see all our latest news across our socials.